What is going on, Framkmeisters? Long time no see. Well, actually, not really. Since last Wednesday, I believe I did a live, and then I did a lot of videos for Saturday's walk. But Framkmeisters. But what other words would Indy Pam would say? The Franken family. I like that, Indy Pam. Really like that. Franken family. So what's going on, peoples? Felt like coming on for a little bit. Was getting bored and missed my peoples, and thought I'd come on for a little bit and shoot the shit with you guys. See what's going on with you guys in your lives. We can talk about anything. I'm sure everybody wants to talk about Delphi. I'm pretty sure of that. Anything you guys want to talk about, you just let me know, and we'll discuss it and try to figure out what we can figure out. Looks like we got rescue all dogs is in the house. Boston Christian, Mustang, what's going on? Low-hanging fruit, Beverly, James Powers, Gladys Kravis. There's my homegirl Indy Pam again. Olivia too. Miss Persevere, you ready to come up on panel? You afraid to, or are you ready to do it now? Heather Marie, good to see you. What's up, Mandy? We got Melissa in the house. Yeah, I know. There's other lives going on right now. That's all right. That's all right. I'm sure more people will start wrangling in here in a little bit. There's one of my favorite ladies, Miss Deb, True Crime Notebook. Hey, good to see you. You want to see my face, Indy Pam? It's going to be a brief one. There you go. Don't look at my eyes, please. Been watching the Cubs game and decided, well, damn, it's time to go live. I'm going to hang out with my peoples for a little bit. Well, good evening, Framkmeister's purse and turquoise waving. Must be one of those. Oh, by the way, guys, if you guys haven't noticed, the ones that are in the chat, I do have memberships now, and I have super stickers, and I have super chats. If you guys go to the YouTube channel, there's a join button right there. It'll give you the prices: $2.99, $6.99, and a 1-year deal for, I believe it's $24.99 on the memberships. Or you can just donate straight to my Cash App, which you guys, whatever you guys rather do. Hey, Dad, you want to come up and hang out with me? Dad's my buddy. Let me put this up here again. Anybody that wants to come up and hang out. You know, I was thinking about something the last few days when it came to Richard Allen. They got back on the heels of Richard Allen here just a year ago. And it's making me wonder, once they got that tip, already in your PJs? Oh, Lord. That's what happens to us old folk. But it made me wonder, once they were on to Richard Allen's tail again, if they ran a federal background check on him and found that he owned a handgun. And that's what made them decide to go ahead and get a search warrant for his house and see if that gun might match up to the bullet they found. Because all he basically got is his admittance to being at the bridge and the handgun. That's all we have. So it makes me wonder if that's what they've done to get that gun, and they did the ballistic test on it and came back positive for the bullet that was found. And here we go. 2 weeks after the search warrant, he's being arrested. Oh, more people popping in. We got, there's the Indy, Kentucky girl, Jinx. What's up? Thanks for the super sticker, Jinx. Thank you. 2007 whistleblower. Good to see you. Don Spang, what's going on? I see Miss Perseverance not ready to come up on panel. She was talking in the Discord. She's ready to do a live, but I'm inviting you up here to break the jitters on that. Hey, trust me, when I first started off, I didn't like coming up on the panel either. But once I got the hang of it and got comfortable with it, I had no problem with it. Surprise, Jinx. Hey, there's my other favorite lady, Miss Purdue RN. Such a wonderful woman. We all went to the memorial walk last Saturday. As you can see, I took a lot of pictures and I took a lot of video. And then me, my buddy Taylor, support with Steffa, Miss Purdue RN, and Mr. Purdue. We all went to lunch at Arnie's in Roseville, Indiana, which is just a little suburb, I guess, outside of Lafayette. And Miss Purdue RN and her husband were kind enough to pay for everybody's lunch, even though it was just me, Stefan, Taylor, and themselves. Much appreciated, Miss Purdue. Love you for that. Miss Purdue brought to my attention that I need to be able to put the link for my memberships, and I have not figured out how to do that yet. But I'm learning, guys. I'm still learning the ropes of this YouTube studio and where to go find things and things of that nature. So just be patient with me. But the only way I can tell you right now is if you go to YouTube and you go to my channel, you'll see the join button right there. Or you can do it at the bottom of the comments there also, where the $ is and super stickers and things of that nature. I can't see it on my end because I use StreamYard, but if I'm looking at my laptop, I run my show through my laptop also, I can see it on there. So, Miss Purdue, you are a wonderful lady. I got a lot of pictures of everybody out there that day. I took a couple videos, and hopefully I got good enough video to where I know there's some people that have not actually seen or been there. So I gave a general idea of where the girls came in, the trail they came in, the gate they came in, where the 501 was, the 505. I even showed the bench that allegedly RA said he was sitting at somewhere between 1:30 and 3:30 that PM, which I call, excuse my French, I call bullshit on. I don't think he sat at that bench at all. Because that was the case. There was other people on the trail that day who would have seen him sitting there. And according to what we know, the only three people that saw him were the three witnesses, the three female witnesses. Or four female witnesses, I should say now. Yes, rescue all dogs. I try not to, I try to do at least maybe one a week, or if I've got a lot of shorts I could put up or videos that I could put up, it covers for my lives. So I try the best I can. I try to keep up as much as I can with everything, with documents, everything. That's one of the big things I'm good at, and I try to accommodate people. Like there's only a select few of people when I get documents handed to me, or I can get them. There's only a select few people that I give them to, and a couple of them are in the chat now. And there's a reason why I do that, because I'm trying to get my channel to grow. I'm trying to get somebody else's channel to grow along with me. So I'm trying to help them as much as I can and trying to help myself at the same time. But I do, let's see my banners here. If anybody ever needs to get a hold of me, there's my email. The quickest way to get a hold of me. Like I said, there's only a few select people that have my actual phone number, and I'm going to leave it that way unless you're privileged to get it from me. So don't count on that too often. But like I said, there are just a few people out there that have my actual phone number that I actually talk to. So, and also my Cash App, if you guys just want to directly donate to Cash App, there's my Cash App account. I did have, and I want to thank my mods that are in here. I got Miss Purdue. I got Miss Debs in here. I'm not sure who else I got in here as mods. I don't know if Jinx is or not. And by the way, for the people that are donating, thank you, Jinx. Olivia, Whistleblower became a new member. Boston Christian, thank you. Rescue Old Dogs, thank you. Pam Hurst, thank you. Thank you immensely. Yeah, Miss Purdue and Miss Deb, it looks like they're the only mods I have in here tonight. So you guys give them round of applause for keeping up on the chat and putting links in our chats for us. So it'd be greatly appreciated. Thank you, ladies. Thank you for sticking by me and hanging in there and dealing with my BS sometimes, ladies. You know who I'm talking about, Deb and Miss Purdue. But they've always got my back, and I greatly appreciate that. But let's get back to a little bit of Delphi. Today, y'all see that it looks like we believe, me and Miss Deb have talked about this, it looks like that Mr. Baston guy is writing letters again to the court, and we don't understand what's going on. It's almost like he's interjected himself in this case for a reason, and we're trying to figure out why. I mean, a convicted pedophile in for 4 years, and he's filed civil suit after civil suit after civil suit. I guess he's been transferred to several different prisons and everything like that. And now you got the defense who's wanting to talk to this guy, and now they're trying to set up a meeting with him. And I just feel like that's going to be even worse on Richard Allen's case than when it's really worth. So I'll be honest with you guys. Guy's wasting his time, and I think the defense is going to waste their time with him too, because if you bring him in front of a jury, they're going to look at him like, really? You're going to bring this guy who's convicted of crimes against children and testify on behalf of a person who's committed 2 heinous murders? Trust me, I sat on a jury a few years back. I was a jury foreman, and I know exactly what goes on in them courts. And I'm here to tell you, just for being on a jury and a foreman, the jury will see right through that. Let's add Ruckus to the chat. He's coming in. There you old man. Ruckus rocks. What's going on, man?
Frank, how are you, brother?
I'm hanging out, bro. I got bored and wanted to see my people, so I thought I'd start live tonight. You know, I've been busy last week. I did a live last week with you, Deb, and everybody, and then I did the thing for Saturday for the Memorial Walk.
I watched that. That was awesome, dude.
Appreciate it. Much appreciated. Like I said, I made the one video specific for people that have never been out to Delphi to show exactly where the girls got dropped off at, where the 501, the 505 was, and showed them, actually videotaped the bench that allegedly Richard Allen said he was sitting at until about 3:30, which I call, excuse my French again, bullshit on that one.
Yeah, be careful, dude. I get demonetized a lot of times for using bad words.
That's why I say, excuse my French.
That's not French, dude. That's English. I found that out from YouTube. I tried that with them. Oh, excuse my French. That's not French. That's not French. You know.
Yeah. But I started talking about Robert Baston. What's his purpose in this whole case?
Oh, dude. I don't want to get you demonetized. That's what happened to me.
Bite your tongue.
Yeah. Do you know about this guy?
All I know that he's convicted of crimes against children. He got he's serving 40 years. And from my understanding, he has filed civil suit after civil suit after civil suit against the penitentiaries he's been at.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And it seems like he's interjecting himself into this case. And I said it's a big mistake on the defense's part if they're going to think they're going to try to use this guy as a witness, because the jury, from my past experience being a foreman on a jury, you bring a gentleman up on that stand who's in prison for crimes against children to testify on the behalf of the defense against the man that killed 2 little girls, that's a no-go automatically to the jury.
Oh, dude. And listen, this is not my opinion of this guy. Anybody in the chat, take a second and go Google this guy, Robert Baston, Baston. And I'm going to use clean language here, Frank. But I'm just going to tell you a little bit about this guy's history. He took a 6-year-old away from a pool party at his mom's house on the ATV, took her about 600 yards into the woods, okay, and then committed oral acts on this girl and tried to penetrate this girl. And the whole time knowing that he had Hep C. This guy, he's not a good guy. He's not a good guy. So what he has done, he's not stupid. When he got into the prison system, he checked in. That means he asked for protective custody. And they initially gave it to him, but that doesn't last forever, right? You have to
Right.
prove that somebody's going to hurt you or whatever. So what his gig is he tries to quote unquote commit suicide. He's attempted suicide several times in prison, which keeps him in the lockdown mode, which is where he's at, so that no other inmates can get to him. And then he just writes grievance after grievance after grievance against the prison system. He's a POS. And I'm not going to get you demonetized, so I'm going to stop
I
there.
mean, I mean, what? I mean, I just don't understand the purpose of all this. I mean, what does he think he's gaining out of all this? The publicity, or is it just self satisfaction, or
No, nothing. This is part of his shtick to stay in confinement by keeping the administration of the Department of Corrections of Indiana staying on their bad side. So he's going to stay in that area where he's not accessible by other inmates. I'm here to tell you, if you put that guy on the yard for 5 minutes, he would not last 2 seconds. He's a POS, and they all know that. They've
right,
all pulled. It's called pulling paperwork. Once you go to state prison, nobody's supposed to know what you're there for. But inmates have attorneys that can. It's called pulling paperwork, so they know what his charges are.
right,
And
right, right,
so he's a POS. So there's a reason that he denied transportation to go and testify, because he knows he's a POS. And he knows it wouldn't take. I don't care if you call him Slick Rick. I don't care what you call him, but it would not. No matter who the prosecution was, it wouldn't take them but 2 seconds to rip this guy to pieces. You know.
right.
And just the fact that you brought him up, Frank, I have a lot of respect for you for that. And for those of you guys, I don't know if you guys know it was his birthday recently, and now he can legally drink. So you need to hit up his Cash App so that he can get a drink without a fake ID anymore. This cat's been running around with a fake ID all this time, getting
Hey,
drinks. Hit his Cash App and buy him a drink. That's what you all need to do.
hey, I finally made senior citizens age.
No, no, you have not.
That's what I was telling Purdue and Steph and everybody, a few of us that went to lunch together after Memorial Walk. I said, hey, I'm considered a senior citizen in the state of Indiana.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
but let me ask you this. Me and you talked about this earlier, Ruckus.
yeah.
Now, me and you are basically on the same line about when they came back around to Richard Allen around May or June of last year. Okay.
Right, right.
Now, let me ask you this. If it came back around to them about Richard Allen, do you think it was possible that they ran a federal background check on him and found that he owned a 40 caliber weapon?
Well, the whole thing with the weapon, and I'm here to tell you, dude, and just because I've seen it happen over and over and over, the whole it's the ballistics of him ejecting a round from that firearm is not junk science. I put the last live that I did, which got demonetized, so nobody go watch it. I don't make a nickel off of that. But it shows, well, actually, you know what? Yes, go watch it, because I also have a homage to the girls on there. But there's precedence in Turner versus the state. There was a man that was convicted of a murder. They found a ejected shell, empty shell, at the crime scene, but then they found a unspent round that was ejected from the same weapon that they have never recovered, Frank. They haven't even recovered that weapon, but the science was so good that they convicted this man on that in conjunction with witness testimony, right? So he filed for an appeal, which everybody expected, and he
Right.
won the appeal. He won the appeal. It went all the way to the state Supreme Court, and they granted him a new trial. and he was convicted again on the same testimony by the same ballistic experts on the same ballistic evidence. He was convicted again, and he's done. So there's precedence, and the whole reason I'm saying this is there's precedence that Nick can lean on. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Exactly.
It's already precedence in this state. So they really don't even need that. But from you and I talking in the background and all that stuff, they've been on to Richard Allen since May
Yeah. Yeah.
ish. Ish. So they only get one shot. As soon as you throw handcuffs on these people, you have 70 days in the state of Indiana to prosecute them. So they knew this going in. Now, whether they were prepared or not, they felt like when law enforcement turns that over to the prosecutor, said, "Hey, we're arresting this guy," and the prosecutor said, "Yes, I have enough evidence to put him to nail him with this." If the prosecutor does not agree, then he won't accept it. So if they were on to Richard Allen in May, which I am pretty sure they were,
Mm-hmm.
but they didn't arrest him till October, it's because of collaborating evidence. They had to make sure, Frank, they only get one shot. Otherwise, he's going to walk.
Now let's talk about Keegan and Tony Klein. We talked about
Okay.
this quite a bit a few times ourselves. I still
Yeah.
believe that Keegan is tied in somehow, but not directly to the murders. It's almost like he sold the Anthony Shots information to Dropbox and didn't even realize who he was selling it to.
Keegan Klein is absolutely, absolutely connected to the Delphi case. Absolutely. There's no doubt in my mind. And again, everything that I say here tonight is no reflection on you or
No, I
anybody else.
mean,
It's my opinion. And his dad is definitely connected, if nothing else, to the CSAM. So
right.
there's something going on there in the middle that law enforcement now why didn't they arrest Keegan in 2017 when they found all that stuff on his devices? That's arrestable, Frank. Do
Oh
you
well,
agree
yeah,
with
we know
that?
that, and we still haven't fully understood why they didn't keep him. And to me, it almost sounds like they used him as bait to get all these other catfishers or CSAM accounts or whatever you might want to call it.
Well, law
That's
enforcement doesn't play with CSAM. They would have arrested him just from one picture on one device that they could prove was CSAM. They would arrest him. They would not give him a deal, Frank. They would not work with him. They would put him in jail. If he wanted to snitch, he can do that from his jail cell, which happens
right.
all the time. But they didn't. So as a former law enforcement person, I'm like, why didn't they? What's more important than CSAM? Hmm. Well, maybe the murder of two girls
Right.
is more important than
Right.
that. So they tied it together pretty quick. I mean, I knew that they found the cell phone under Libby's body way before anybody was talking about that, but it does not make a difference in the case. That's why I didn't correct anybody on it, when they found it or where they found it, because it doesn't matter. I knew that they had the cell phone immediately after they found the body. So that's on the 14th, correct?
Correct.
So they were able to get information off that cell phone right away. Now they have to send subpoenas to Kick, to Snapchat, to all that. That shit takes time. Now
Right.
during that time,
Exactly.
the Kleins were able to go to Las Vegas. They weren't around by the time law enforcement got all that back and were able to research everything. And I'm here to tell you, even from Snapchat, Frank, if you wanted to investigate me and you knew I had a Snapchat and you had the ability to send a subpoena to Snapchat, you may get 3 pages on me, or you may get 1,050 pages on me. You
Right.
just don't
Right.
know. And all that has to be gone through, Frank, every bit of it. Any of you that have looked at the transcripts from Keegan's investigation or interrogation or interview, whatever you want to call it, how long did it take you to read through that whole thing? And I'm here to tell you that is not the whole thing.
Well, I mean, it took me several times going back over it and making sure I was reading it right. Certain areas of it, I was reading it right. Trying to understand exactly what they were trying to do and what they were trying to say to him, and then in the same sense, I was in the back watching what he was saying and paying attention to what he was doing. Even though it's all in transcript, you can get a visuality of exactly what's going on in that room. And I mean, Keegan Klein was no dummy. There's no doubt in the transcripts he was playing them. And you could tell he flat out told him, I know exactly what you guys are trying to do here. You're trying to get me to confess to something I didn't do. You're trying to flip the script and try to say I said this when I didn't say this and that. I mean, this kid has been taught very well, even though he is a dummy. But when it comes to stuff like that, it seemed like that he had been pretty well worked on how to take care of situations like that.
Well,
and that's why it's been.
To me, Frank, my opinion, and this is just my opinion only, that is a transcript of an interview. Okay? At a certain point, an interview turns into an interrogation. Now, in an interrogation, you use techniques. You use either the piece technique or the read technique, proven techniques. And that's where they ask him questions when he's comfortable, and then they ask him the same question again where he's not so comfortable, and then they'll leave the room, and then they'll come back in and ask him in a different way. We don't see that in the transcripts. We don't see that. But what I take out of that interview, and that's what I call those transcripts, that's an interview. It's not an interrogation. What I take out of that is they're trying to find out from him who else is using those devices. And what else I take out of that is they're trying to get him to admit that his dad was also
Right.
using those devices. Now, in the unredacted transcripts, it's very clear to me that it's an older person, okay, because of the phonetics, the way
Right.
he's talking to these people, and the questions that he's asking these people. Now, I
Right.
don't know if these girls are underage or not. I have no idea. The the deputies, the detectives that are talking to him are saying they are, but they can say that they're underage, and that's not lying. It's
Right.
hard to explain. If somebody's never been involved with an interrogation or an interview, law enforcement can bend the truth. They can't out and out lie because any attorney worth his salt will get that thrown out. So
Let
they
me get
know
to let me
they
get to
can't
this real
lie.
quick by Purdue. We need an RA background history deep dive into childhood. He needs a thorough deep dive to develop a psychological profile. Now, I will say I was watching another show a few days ago, and they were talking about RA didn't have no background, nothing with any violence. And I said, let me tell you something right now. If he had a record prior and he had it expunged, we'll never know if he had that kind of history in his background. So that's one thing I did want to bring up. We actually don't know what kind of background Richard Allen has. Like I said, he could have had a record and had it expunged, and we'll never know because that's sealed. And the only way you're going to get it sealed is by a judge. Unsealed, excuse me.
No, absolutely. And all those documents have just got dumped. The one that meant the most to me, I don't care about the search warrant. I don't care about what items they took from him. The one that made the most impact on me was the judge saying that, yeah, everything after December 2nd can be released. So anything before December 2nd can be sealed. And that's why I say, and this is just my humble opinion, dude, that there's more to that PCA. There's no mention in that PCA of a co-defendant or CIs or information. I'm surprised they released not victim, witness information. And I'm surprised that they released his social security number, to be honest with you. But
Right.
here's how it works. It doesn't have to be, they arrested him on information that they needed to arrest him. And even the very first PCA that was released Frank, there was plenty there to arrest him. Okay, plenty. So a judge could sign off on that, no problem. The
Now,
second
WL,
PCA that they just
D-
released had more information, didn't it?
yeah, WL 22 wanted to know exact date that he had spoke to the CO. That was the 14th, correct? It was
15th.
the when the 15th, the day they
15th.
released the photo of BG on the bridge, or one
Yeah.
of the sketches.
It was before they released the sketch, but it was Skinner, a retired, a
What
retired, yeah.
moonlighting,
It
basically.
was no, not moonlighting. He was a good guy. I mean, he got a lot of accolades and stuff like that. But when stuff like this came out, he volunteered his time, and he is Skinner. Thomas Skinner is the one that took the information from Alan, and he gave it to Dan. If you look in the PCA, Frank, it says, now I know everybody's hung up on this because Dan is on the witness list, but it says right in the new PCA that through the Orion system that Dan took that tip and gave it to ISP. So it was loaded into the system. So I know for a fact that Skinner took that information from Richard Allen. Now he's since passed, so we cannot verify that with him. But there's
Right.
no way around it. Law enforcement is going to have to say that yes, that this volunteer / retired conservation officer took this information, gave it to Dan, and he loaded it into the system. It didn't get lost. He was loaded in as a witness, not as a suspect. That's what happened. Because the FBI right away, when it came out that, well, yeah, we got onto him because of a tip, but the FBI misfiled it. FBI came out right away and said, hell no, that didn't happen. Hell no, that didn't happen. But at the end of the day, we're all going to see that, this gentleman took this tip, gave it to Dan Doolin. Dan Doolin, maybe he put it in the system then, or maybe he didn't, because Skinner and Doolin both knew Richard Allen, and they didn't believe he was capable of this. So it probably just got set aside. But I don't know that for sure. But I know for sure, in my humble opinion, that Thomas Skinner, took that information from Richard Allen and he turned it over to Dan Doolin. What
My
happened
under,
from there, we don't know until the PCA, the second PCA came out, where it says that through the Orion system, Dan Doolin delivered that tip.
from my understanding, is that Thomas Skinner had a friendship with Richard Allen.
And so did Dan Doolin. They both knew Richard Allen and his wife.
So, on your end, what do you think will happen once Keegan gets sentenced?
On my end, what my personal belief is that Keegan Klein has been offered immunity and he's accepted it. Now, the only reason I say that is because people that I've talked to, and I'll learn more next week, but the only reason I say that is because everybody that was at his sentencing hearing, why would all of these detectives in the Delphi case be present there?
Right,
Right?
exactly.
Now,
Exactly.
Frank, there's two reasons. I've seen only two reasons.
We talked about that the same day we did that live. Why was
Yes,
Vito and Holman there?
right. Now, they could have arrested if they know that Keegan Klein is connected to the Delphi case and they're offering him immunity. They could still arrest him on that case. They could have arrested him on that case years ago while he was sitting in prison and put a hold on him, which means that when he gets done with his Miami County case, that he would go to Carroll County,
Carroll County on
right?
a hold, yes. Yes.
Now, if they wanted to be shitty about it, they wouldn't arrest him on that. So because once they arrest him, his time served starts. Do you
Right.
follow me? So if they arrested him back then, he would get credit for all this time that he's been sitting in Miami County. or they would not arrest him on that case because there's other people involved and they've offered him immunity, and they're just going to pick him up once he gets sentenced. Before he goes to prison, they're going to pick him up. And even if he went to prison, Frank, I don't care where he went in the state of Indiana, if they have an agreement with him to testify in the Delphi case, he can go to prison wherever, and it doesn't release, and they don't have to release any information on that case. But they can bring him back to Carroll County. Now, my belief is that if he was sentenced on that day, they would have took him into custody, brought him to Carroll County, and kept him in protective custody until he could testify. And my belief is until he could testify against other people involved.
Sorry, I'm just reading messages here, bud.
No, that's okay. That's okay. This is your live, dude. I'm not trying to hijack.
I am. I'm on the bandwagon that once they sentence him, that he's going to be brought over to Carroll County on a hold. That's what I think might happen. And then get his statement.
He may go to prison with a hold for Carroll County. That may happen as well. But my belief is that he's involved. He knows that other people are involved. Now, I'm not saying that he knows Richard Allen. He may know Booby Boo 267. He may know his screen name or whatever. But I'm here to tell you that there is not one search warrant on Richard Allen. There was 2, possibly 3 search warrants on Richard Allen. And there was not one river search. There was definitely 3 river searches. There was the Wabash search that everybody knows about. But there was also a search on 18, which is west of Delphi over the Tippecanoe River. And there was also a search near the Klein residence that nobody knows about. So you tell me. I'm not the brightest guy in the world. I'm probably law enforcement, so my IQ is low. But we call shit like that in the business. We call shit like that a clue, right? Right. So now, did they find anything? Who the hell knows?
So
we'll all find out together. But how did they get on Richard Allen? By a tip from a retired CO? Absolutely not.
Deb says, unfortunately, they can't substantiate KK's stories according to what KK's saying to Nick McClellan. What is your thoughts on that now that all this other stuff is starting to come out?
If Keegan Klein finally said to himself, you know what? F this. I'm going to tell him the truth. Nobody would believe him. So there needs to be corroborating evidence of that. So if Keegan Klein told us, well, yes, this guy was involved and that guy was involved, we would think that, he's just saying anything to get out of this, right? But you have to investigate everything. So if he says, well, this guy's involved and I can prove it because this is in the river or this is near the property or whatever it is, if you can collaborate it with another person, it has a little bit more weight. That still doesn't mean it's true. But if you have some physical evidence, if you have a phone, a thumb drive, a weapon, anything like that, burnt clothes, anything like that, then you can collaborate what he said. And it has a little bit more weight to it. But you still have to be sure, Frank. You can't arrest somebody on Keegan Klein's word. Nobody, you, me, nobody in this chat is going to think that Keegan Klein that anybody's going to be arrested on Keegan Klein's word.
Let me ask you this. Now, when it goes to Richard Allen's car, they allegedly took some carpet out of there. They took some swabs of the seat belts and everything like that. Would you think they did luminol test first before they did any of that? And if they did, will luminol contaminate what DNA evidence they have?
Now I'm talking on my phone here,
Yeah.
and you know I'm watching this on my TV, which is too far away for me to read the chat. But I can see that my name is mentioned a few times, so I apologize to anybody. If you can see questions, Frank, that you think are worthy, just give them to me.
Yeah. Let me.
But I'm here to tell you, I do not know how they processed his car. I know they processed it, right? I was never a CSI guy. Steve from True Crime Web, that's the person that you want to talk to about that stuff. But I
Okay.
do know this in the PCA, Frank, it says we knocked on his door at 5 o'clock and we started the search, right? Per the search warrant. And we were done at 7:09. But then if you look at the search warrant, the judge did not sign it until 6:37. I'm here to tell you, anything that they found before 6:37 on that search warrant, you can't use as evidence.
What about if he gave them consent to search prior to the search warrant being delivered?
There's no mention of that. Now, I would imagine, I can only imagine that yes, there was consent given, and then it was revoked at some point. Like, listen, like if somebody came to your house, if law enforcement came to your house, Frank, and they said, listen, we're going to search your house. Either you can let us search your house, or we'll get a search warrant. And if you think, okay, well, yeah, search my house, but then they start saying things, and you say, you know what, I'm done until you get a search warrant. It's
Right.
only a phone call. That's all it takes. Excuse me. That's all it takes. You can call a judge, and law enforcement will send the nearest available person. That judge can be on vacation at Lake Tahoe. It doesn't matter, to get his signature on that warrant. So that's what tells me that there's more than one warrant on Richard Allen. There's more than one search warrant. Now,
Oh,
why is that important? Because they did one search warrant with a boilerplate. I know a lot of people made a big fuss about this, but the the warrant on Ron Logan's house was a boilerplate warrant. You take the narrative out of it, and we're looking for guns, digital media, clothing,
mm-hmm.
knives. That's and I guarantee you, and it was. I don't have to guarantee it was all the same kind of things that were on Richard Allen's. But that is not the only search warrant that they have. Now, I emailed Rick Snay because the case numbers are confusing me
Right.
with these search warrants. And I know his wife is either a bailiff or works in the court system. So I emailed him that question. It's like, hey, what's up with all these case numbers? Now, what he emailed me back and he confirmed with me today is that they're all the same case number. Okay. So I believe him and I believe his wife that they're all the same case number. So if they're all the same case number, but some of them are MR and some of them are MC, that tells me that there's more than one warrant there.
Right.
So
Todd's got a for you. He says, Ruckus, it seems after their meeting, the DNR officer, DD, would have told RA that the investigators would be following up, but then they never followed up. Is that plausible?
here's what I think happened there. And this is just my opinion. Okay. I am absolutely convinced that Thomas Skinner, a retired DNR officer, took that information from Rick. He knew Rick. Okay. So he took that information from Rick as a witness.
Right. Right.
Okay. Now, it didn't get misfiled, Frank. It didn't get misfiled at all. It was in the system but as a witness. So it's like, okay, you saw a car accident, Frank, and what did you see? Well,
Right.
I saw this car hit this car, and that's it. There's nothing really there. So that's what they considered it.
Okay.
And because Skinner is retired, he's not in the office every day. So he
Right.
doesn't see everything that's going on. And Dan Doolin is not the smartest person in the world. I mean, we've already seen that. But he didn't put two and two together, basically.
Olivia, too, do you think the missing items from the crime scene were at R.A.'s house? Do you think R.A. kept the jacket he wore that day? I am not going to speculate on that because, from my understanding, they took quite a few pair of pants, some jackets, and things of that nature. So it's really hard to say if that the same jacket's still there. So I really don't have a substantiated comment for that one. How about you, Ruckus?
Well, everybody knows that I am pro law enforcement. Okay, so I am confident that everything that they took was took in the proper fashion, and and a chain of custody was established, and DNA tests were done, and everything that needed to be done was done. If he kept that jacket from that day and they found whatever they needed on it, well, then he's not very bright, is he? He had
No, it's
almost
not.
6 years, almost 6 years to get rid of all that stuff. And I know a lot of naysayers will say, well, he would have sold that car if he knew. But no, he thought he was in the clear.
Right,
You guys have
right,
to remember this: Charles Manson did not kill anybody, but
right.
yet he got convicted of those murders. Evidence is evidence, period. So whatever comes up, the lab people, the CSI people that take the evidence and process it and all that, they have no dog in the fight. They can't. So, and neither do the detectives. I know there's a lot of naysayers that say, Carroll County's corrupt and this, that, and the other thing. And I'm not going to say that, no, there's not bad cops out there. I'm not going to say that. There are. There's plenty examples of it. But it would be impossible for that whole county to be that corrupt to cover up the murder of two little girls. It's impossible.
Todd says investigators interviewed R.A. and his wife that day, then searched their house later that day. They likely gave consent.
Well, the search was done prior to that, Todd. It was done prior to that. And I'm not trying to correct anybody. I'm not trying to be a know-it-all. I'm not. The search was done prior to that, before they called him back in to interview him. So they already had all that information with at least one search warrant. I personally believe there was at least 3 search warrants on that property. And I think the last one was done after he was taken into custody.
All right. Digital says at first they said the Allens were out of their house 12 hours. Now it's down to 2 hours. I heard from the very beginning that Liggett arrived later with a warrant to search and take the car. I do remember seeing the photo of Liggett arriving with the search warrant in his hand and was handing it to Richard Allen. I do recall that photo.
No, absolutely. Digital's absolutely correct. For anybody to think that they knocked on that door at 5 o'clock and they were done with that search warrant by 7:09, that's okay. Yes, that's one search warrant, but you have to be clear. Um, they're not going to arrest him without having the proper documentation. Now we all know, because of nosy neighbors, which is a good thing, that Richard Allen and his wife had to be outside of that home for at least 10 hours that we know of. So there was at least consent to search for for a certain amount of time. So, and they have to have a reason for that. They just cannot, because of the Fourth Amendment, Frank, they can't just knock on your door and say, hey, We think you did something, so can we search your home? You can say no, hit the bricks, you know?
This
So
perseverer says, wasn't there 2 weeks between the search and the day he was brought in, Ruckus? I do believe it was 2 weeks. They did the search warrant, and then 2 weeks later they were arresting him.
once they got possession of that firearm,
Yep,
they had to do testing.
that's what I
They,
think I have to do.
they had to do testing. And not only that, any clothing that they took or anything like that had to be tested. We don't know. There was people talking about, oh, there was a cat dug up and all that. And people are losing their minds over this shit. Oh, we just got all these documents. There was no cat involved. We don't know that yet. Animal DNA is different than human DNA. So we don't know that yet. We don't know everything that they found. That's why I say there's more to this. There's more search warrants. If you guys all look at the search warrant that they released, and there's a box down the right hand side that says went to the lab. The only thing that's on there is ammunition and the weapon. None of the clothes, nothing else went to the lab according to what they've sent us. There's more involved, guys. There's way more involved. Why would they not send any of that stuff to the lab?
Shane Constantine says murder sheet stated that they knew about Alan's house being searched 3 to 4 days before, but they kept it quiet. That was the last one when Ellie took evidence.
And they may be right. They may be right. Because Kevin is an attorney, they may be privy to information prior to us peons.
And then you got Kay. She says, then why doesn't Ellie tell the truth instead of making up these elaborate lies and blaming it on FBI? But we're supposed to just trust Ellie, right? Let me answer that real quick, okay? I see where you're coming from, Kay, in that statement, but then again, what law enforcement agency is going to want to have that lingering over their head the whole time? So it's just natural to put the blame on somebody else, even though they don't want to. But that in this situation, that's what it seems like it happened here.
Right.
They're just they're trying to protect their identity as a law enforcement agency is basically what's going on.
And let me address that as well. I love Kay to death. She asks the questions that nobody else does. Honestly, I love Kay to death. Now, but to say the statement to say, why doesn't Ellie tell the truth instead of making up these elaborate blah, blah, blah? We don't know that Ellie made up those stories. That's what we got from news agencies. I'm quite sure, Kay, that law enforcement did not say, hey, the FBI effed up, not us, or what have you. That all came from what they released to news agencies, and they ran with it. But if you go back, law enforcement has to, whatever law enforcement has released, they have to back that up. Okay? So if you can go back, Kay, and find me where law enforcement said FBI effed that up, or if it was just a news agency, I'll be on your side. But they'd be stupid. They'd be stupid to say that out loud.
And Todd says here, obviously RA intentionally did not contact Delphi investigators to report he was on the trails that day at the exact same time as the victims. If he had, he would have immediately been interviewed.
Todd, he was interviewed because he came forward. Now, what law enforcement does, okay, and what they did, and this is just an example, okay, in the Idaho 4 case, they got all hands on deck, and they went around to every neighbor and knocked on their doors. Hey, did you see or hear anything? That's called canvassing, okay? So they will also put all hands on deck at grocery stores, Home Depot, Walmart, Lowe's, put them out front, where the girls usually sell the Girl Scout cookies. They do that for a reason, because it's high traffic. And law enforcement will ask everybody.
They do the same thing with military recruiters. They put them at grocery stores. They put them in the high schools. I mean, right
Right,
out there with their table and everything. You know.
right. It's called canvassing.
Hmm.
So I'm not saying that Richard Allen did not call Thomas Skinner or Dan Doolin. I'm not saying he didn't call them because he knew them both. He may have, but meeting at a grocery store to me screams that's canvassing. So
Right.
law enforcement is already there. He was going in. Hey, Rick, how you doing? Good. Hey, how you doing, Tom? Good. Hey, you heard about what happened yesterday? Yes. Did you see or hear? Well, you know what? I was there. And to be honest with you, I hate when people do this. I'm not trying to put words in people's mouth. I'm just trying to let everybody know that that's canvassing
Hmm.
type thing. And he took
Yeah.
information because he's retired. He's a retired CO, so he knows what information to take. But he doesn't know what an IMEI is and all that. And he's a game and fish guy. He's usually busting people's balls about how big the trout is that they caught.
Or if they have a fishing license, or
Exactly. Exactly.
now beach ferries is probably why RA should blanked himself when he saw what they had. Let me tell you something. Me and Ruckus have had numerous conversations about this. What's so funny about what you just said, Beach Fairy, is that he was not acting like this whatsoever prior to receiving the discovery. Once he took a look and see what they had on him, that's when he defecated all over himself and started freaking out. And I think the defense team is telling him, hey, do this, do this, do this as an act to make him look like himself. He's crazy. It's just a plan on their part because they know he's hit. His goose is cooked. And I said that when they released the discovery. I said, watch, they're going to find something in that discovery and they're going to say, oh, shit. And they went to Richard and said, hey, we're not going to be able to do anything with this part right here. So this is what you need to do.
Yeah, when this a-hole confessed on the phone, everybody and his brother that's involved with this case could have got that information. Okay,
Yep.
the only one that was wise enough, because the prison is not going to just send that information out. That shows favoritism. So you have to ask for it. So I don't care what anybody says about Slick Nick and all that crap. He was smart enough to ask for it, and he got it. Now,
Mm-hmm.
what happened? And it wasn't by plan. I certainly didn't know anything. But if anybody goes back and watches my video called Play Stupid Games, it was on the 6th. I didn't know he had confessed to his wife. I didn't know all this shit. But I knew that his attorneys put out all this fake BS about him being mistreated and he can't get attorney paperwork and all
Right around the
that.
time
Well,
of
we all
discovery.
now know.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we all now know that not only was he getting his attorney's paperwork, he was wetting it down and friggin' eating it.
Yeah.
So give me a break.
Like he was trying to get rid of something like we couldn't get another copy. You know what I mean? I'm just
Right.
like, what was the purpose of that? And
Yeah.
here we go. Annette says, in a very small town, people would be less suspicious. Easy to take RA's information as an honest witness information. His local reputation didn't point to him as a criminal.
Yeah, I don't know.
I would tend to agree with that.
And I'm learning. I grew up in the projects in Boston, and I'm from a big town. I don't know about this small town stuff. And I'm learning now that the county that I worked in, to me, is a small county compared to Boston.
Let's see. Whistleblower. I thought that the police would believe he was just walking on the bridge, a leisurely stroll to gaslight them. Well, he must have been pretty damn smart because when it all got started about how they were talking about, well, the perp, they were telling people the perp had brown eyes when they knew he had blue eyes. They knew it. They did that as a deterrent to keep the person they're looking for from thinking they're looking for somebody with blue eyes. They told everybody brown eyes, and it made him think, well, damn, I got blue eyes. hazel eyes, whatever, they're not on my radar. I'm not on their radar, so I'm in the clear. So maybe it took them this long to get all the information they needed on the person they've been looking at the whole time. They knew he had blue eyes. So,
Well, to me, the sketches and his eye color and his height means zero to me. What means a lot to me is law enforcement released like a second and a half of that video. That whole time he's moving towards the camera, Frank. So 43 seconds is a long time. He got very close to that camera. He may have had his face covered, but it was enough for them to, once they finally got onto him, to realize that, yes, this is him.
yeah.
So everybody needs to remember that. There's 43 seconds of video that law enforcement saw where just look at the video. He's walking towards the camera. There's a reason they didn't release more. And in my eyes, in my opinion, is because there are other people involved. And if they
That's why they
that
kept saying, well, that's why they kept saying, don't look to the left, don't look to the right, just look at his body mannerisms.
Yeah, well, they said, you people in television, what's coming out of the lens is what you see. You don't see what's happening to the left and to the right. But LE does. They heard that whole video. They know that there's a second person involved just by audio alone. So they're not going to release that. I can tell you this, and I can tell you this with 100% confidence, Frank, that I only became involved in this case in mid-October, just before Richard Allen was arrested. I became involved because I was like, how the hell is there no arrest in 5, almost 6 years when they have audio and video of this guy? That's what got me interested in this case. So I started looking at things, and then I figured out, they have 43 seconds of that video.
Yeah,
so we're a lot more than they're releasing.
Yeah, we're only seeing about 1.3, 1.4 seconds of the actual video. All they did was re-looped. They're looping it. That's all they did.
And they quote unquote enhanced that. Now, there's no doubt you don't have to be a genius to figure out that they obscured something in his right hand, on his right side.
And they even cropped out Abigail's arm out of the photo, the original photo.
Yeah, but to me that didn't make a big difference. To me, what really, he got arrested soon after I became interested in this case, right? So to me, what stuck out was, wow, in 5, almost 6 years, nobody, no web sleuths, no YouTubers, no law enforcement, nobody had Richard Allen on their radar. Not one person. Now, since he's been arrested, there's a bunch of people that jump out and say, oh, yeah, I knew it. Well, where were you before you got arrested? Right? But nobody knew that. And also, Frank, nobody knew that they had a bullet, or when they found it, or how they found it. Nobody knew when they found Libby's phone, where it was, and how they found it. Well, now we know that they found the phone underneath her. So, and they go back to say now there was I'm trying to think of his last name. His first name is Charlie. He sent me audio, right? Saying that, hey, my brother-in-law is an audio expert, and we've gone over this audio from the guys down the hill, Charlie Murphy.
Yeah,
I want to give him the right credit. Charlie Murphy.
Yeah,
he's a great guy. Yeah, he's a musician. He's a good guy. But he sent it to me, the whole breakdown, and I listened to it, and I agreed that it sounded like a gun cocking, right? So, but we now know that is exactly the case. So Charlie was right that he told the guys, and at some point racked the gun down the hill. Now, Frank, was that gun just what was in the magazine, or was there one in the chamber already?
See,
Did he
that's
rack the gun and spit one out then, or because we know he did that across the creek? That
right.
definitely happened.
So is
People
there
that
another?
think that it was planted and all that, please give me a break.
It
Please,
always made me wonder if, because it's always been said, and it's always been the speculation in the audio that somebody heard a gun cocking in it. Now, if that's the case, why would he cross the creek and rechamber another round if he's already got one in the chamber already? That's
well,
the question I'm
he's
trying to figure out.
he's trying to gain compliance.
But
And
if he had
people are
already,
already, and this
but if
cracks
he,
me up too, Frank. People are already saying, well, there was 9 rounds in one magazine that they found, but there's only 8 in the other, which means he racked one in the magazine. No, those magazines for that model Sig Sauer hold 10 rounds. So if you put 10 rounds in it, put it into the weapon, rack one into the chamber, you need to release the magazine and load another one in and then put it back in. Now you have 11 shots. So people that are hung up on, well, one of them had 9 rounds in it and the other one had 8, so that must be, no, they hold 10 total. They hold 10. So what's your argument? I don't understand that whole thing.
my whole problem with the whole situation is like you said, we've heard over the years that in the audio allegedly somebody heard the gun cocking. Okay, if he's got the gun cocked and he's heading across the creek, why would he rechamber another round when he's already got one in there?
Because he's trying to gain compliance.
But if he's
I,
already
I,
got one in the chamber already, I'm trying to understand why he would discharge a round to load another round.
but put yourself in that situation, Frank. And that's why I say that Richard Allen has never done this before for 2 reasons. A, because look at him now. He's eaten up by this. This is not just because he was caught. Do you follow me? He's not a.
Oh yeah,
There's serial killers that have been caught that once they're caught, it's a game to them. No, he got caught and it's eating him up. He's losing weight. There's no doubt the change in his physical and mental being since he's been caught. So to me, in my eyes, he's never been in this situation before, Frank. So he cocked the gun, whether it was one in the chamber or not. He pulled it out. He cocked it to gain compliance. And in my opinion, he cocked it a second time across the river because it worked the first time. They did what he told him to do once he racked that gun. You know how everybody has that thing in their head, Frank, where if someone comes in your house and you rack a shotgun, people know that sound and they
mm-hmm.
F around, find out, right? Well, it's the same thing. He's trying to gain compliance. So he needs to gain compliance at the bridge. Now, and this is just my opinion, if they ran and he's trying to gain compliance again, he may have racked it again without realizing it because he's never
Right.
been through this before. It Now in your personal life, I'm not talking to your military life, Frank. In your personal life, have you ever been involved in a situation where you had to rack around into your gun?
Yep.
So
Sure have.
you
Mm-hmm.
know it was empty,
Yep.
right? So you racked it. Now, if it was a high stress situation and you didn't have to squeeze off that first round, and say a few minutes had expired, 5, 10 minutes or whatever, high pressure situation where there's a chase and control is trying to be happening, you may rack it again for compliance because it worked the first time. I'm not
Right.
saying that's what happened. I'm saying that's my opinion. This guy is not
Yeah,
a
I can't tell
professional
you
murderer.
when you have to rack around because of his situation. It is a scary situation that you put yourself into when you're racking around into a weapon for self defense reasons. You know, it is
Yeah.
a scary situation.
And now because I know you, Frank, and I just know how you are, you're like me. I am not going to carry a firearm that does not have one in the chamber. There's a lot of people that don't. The one that's sitting on their nightstand. You folks in the chat right now, I'm sure there's a lot of people in this chat right now that have a gun in or on their nightstand within arm's reach, just in case. Now,
Yep.
you tell me, and Frank, if you would watch the chat, you tell me whether or not you have one in that chamber or not. People are afraid their kids are going to get a hold of it or somebody else, and they're going to shoot and injure somebody. So they don't have one in the chamber. To me, that's useless. I don't want some, and I'm really dumbing this down. I don't want some jerk. I would use better words than that. But I don't want some jerk that's coming into my house to know where I'm at because of the sound of me racking around. I have one in the
I,
chamber. I'm ready to go.
me too, brother. I live by myself, so
Yeah.
I don't have to worry about no kids or anything. I got one in the chamber. Everywhere I go in the house, the gun goes with me, no matter what the circumstances are. If it's a chill night, I don't care. If somebody starts firing from outside my window, I'm going to be prepared. You know, I
But I'm here
mean,
to tell you, I
a
would be
split
willing to
second,
bet that
a
half the
split second.
people in this chat that have a firearm in or on their nightstand in arm's reach, I would be willing to bet that half of them do not have one in the chamber. They have to rack it. I would be willing to bet that right now.
Half a second when it comes to racking a gun in your life. So, which one do you prefer, having one already in the chamber or your life?
I know my house. Chances
That
are
is,
somebody that's coming in does not know my house. If I rack a weapon, they know where I am. Even
well,
my shotguns.
that's what I'm saying. Would you rather have it racked and it only takes you a split second to rack around, or a split second to lose your life?
Yeah,
Would
no,
you
I'd rather have one in the chamber. And the only
exactly?
reason is because I don't want them to know where I am by the sound. Do you follow me? Because if
Yeah.
you rack it, now they know where you're at. Your house is quiet at night.
All right, hold on, Deb. I'm getting to you. What did she say? Gun not. Hold on. So I saw something she said. Frank. He forgot he had one in the chamber. It's most likely the possibility. You don't need an AK-47 UPO. Just get your little 38 and you'll be just fine.
Get a 380 and you'd be fine. Get
Yeah,
a 22. More 22 rounds kill people in the United States than any other weapon.
exactly. Because the rounds are so small and they bounce around inside of you.
But Deb
Yeah.
is right. He forgot that he had one in the chamber. All of us would until you're in that kind of situation where you feel it's life or death. Now, I can't imagine that he felt that he was on the losing side of the life or death battle, but he's trying to gain compliance.
Mm-hmm. But let
So
me ask you
he forgot.
now, when it comes to his getaway route, we all agreed that he went up 300 some way, somehow. Okay. And a lot of people are wondering why didn't Tara, Derek, and the other witnesses who were at the Mears lot see him. Well, I started thinking about this for a minute. What if the muddy witness saw him down by the Harvester store before everybody showed up at the the Mears lot?
Frank, it absolutely positively could have been dumb luck,
Right.
you know? Now, while I'm there, I have a drone. Steve has a drone. Indy has a drone.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm going to walk 300 with a drone hovering above me and have somebody drive with a camera on, their dashboard and looking as they go by me at different spots in 300 so that we
Right.
can see there's been a lot of conversation about, well, how would they know they were muddy and bloody and yada, yada, yada. And I agree with that. I agree with that 100%. That's not a very big road. It's a very narrow road. It's
The,
barely big enough for
the,
two cars.
the speed limit is 50 miles an hour on 300.
Yeah, so if people are doing 60, even 70, I want to make sure that I get that on video with the drone above me and me walking in different sections of 300 over and over and over again, however many times it takes. I even want to go behind the Mears property. So, if,
Right.
maybe I could circle around.
Well,
Because,
see, I was planning to do that at just the walk this past Saturday, but I had already talked to Frosty, and Indie Archive had already done a drone flyover of the Harvester store and everything, and apparently they only had one camera there at the time, and it was in
but
the
my
front.
thing is, I want to see what a person would see driving, because we do not know, Frank. We know that they saw the witness saw the person on the northern side of 300
Hmm.
walking. So at different speeds, I want people to drive by with the drone above me, and they have a camera in their car and have it focused on me as they drive by, just like you and I were driving by and we look out the window, and between the windshield, and because you notice somebody walking above in front of you, and then you go by, you have to look to see to verify that, yeah, they're muddy and bloody. I'm not saying I don't believe this witness. I just want to see what they possibly could have seen. So I'm gonna put like something like different letters on my
Okay.
chest,
Randy
and
says, "Can see Richard from the cemetery, but Derek was waiting for the family to help search the girls." And then he comes back and says, Randy, when the cars are parked at the drop off, you cannot go 55. You can only do 10 to 15 miles an hour past the cars at that
okay,
time.
and I agree, Randy. But you and I drive differently. Frank, you and I drive differently. Everybody drives differently. So we don't know how. It doesn't say this person drove past him at XX miles an hour. It doesn't say all of that. And I'm positive that they asked that. And that information will come out eventually. But the only way that I will be satisfied is if I walk up the northern side of 300 with a drone above me and have somebody driving by so we can synchronize those two videos. Do you follow me?
Mm-hmm.
And we'll get a better idea of that. Because Frank, that's huge. Because
Let
if
me,
the muddy, bloody witness is accurate, and that is Richard Allen. If we do these videos and you can clearly see that it's my fat bald ass, if nobody says that that's Ruckus, okay, well, then I believe that witness,
right.
right?
Ivy
So
Rose asked if there was shoulders on 300. If I remember correctly, there isn't any shoulders on 300.
there's none. There's no shoulders, and there's no place to hide, especially during
Nope.
that time of year. There's no foliage. There's nothing. And if they
See
went
that?
if they went around Mears' property, there would be footprints, because those are fields with dirt at that time of year. So there'd be footprints. But my thing is, if in fact that I can look at all these videos and say, or give them to anybody, and if everybody says, "Yeah, that's you, you fat, ugly bastard," well, then I have to believe that money bloody witness. So that leads me to believe, why would, if there were more people involved, why would they leave this person on their own to walk back to their vehicle? Why would they do that? I can't clear, in my mind, I can't clear Ron Logan because he was trying to get an alibi for the time that a crime was committed before anybody knew there was a crime committed. So if he was involved, then that person should have been able to go to his house and clean up at least something, right? So if the muddy, bloody witness is accurate, and that's Richard Allen by himself, my meter goes over to lone wolf, even closer. Do you follow?
I'm starting to think the same thing.
Well, why would your buddies leave you hanging like that?
Right. And like I said, I can never get Ron Logan off the after the fact situation due to the point, like you said, he trying to create an alibi at the time of the murders, and it just doesn't make any sense why he would try to create an alibi because he was on a suspended license and on probation, because he'd been driving for so long on that suspension and on probation. They knew it, so why try to cover it now? You know what I mean?
Right. And I'm not saying he's involved. I'm not saying Ron Logan is involved. I'm saying because of his actions, he was acting like a guilty person and creating a false alibi for a specific time during when a crime was committed before anybody knew that there was a crime committed. We call that a clue in the business. It's just like Richard Allen. He came forward and said he was at the crime, in the area where the crime committed. That's first day of class in Murder 101. You clear anybody that was there or says they were there. Those are the first people you look at. And after that, you look at the family and you go out from there. So, I don't blame anybody for that. And I don't blame anybody for asking these, hard questions. But the family has been cleared. I don't care what anybody says. The family's cleared. Everybody's saying it might be because of Derek German and with drugs. And there is no evidence that there was any drugs involved with any of this. There is way more evidence that tilts the needle towards CSAM. Not drugs, CSAM. Now, I'm not saying there's not drugs involved with CSAM either. I don't want anybody to misconstrue what I say. But there's more evidence that said there's CSAM involved, the Tony Shots account, and that's what was involved. Not that they stumbled onto some drug scene. Not that they were victims of a vendetta against Derek German. I've talked to enough people that know Derek German personally, and say that's not the fact. Now, while I'm out there, I'm going to meet up with Eric Williams, the searcher from the 13th. And him and I are going to retrace his steps. So there'll be no flipping gray area about where he went, what he saw, what ATV tracks, where they were. None of that is going to be a gray area anymore. Me and Eric are going to retrace his steps, and we can put all that BS to bed.
But we're going on an hour and a half, guys. I'm getting past my bedtime, and I know Ruckus is about ready to go to bed too, because he's usually in bed before I am. But want to go ahead and take a couple more questions, or if anybody's got any more questions. I do want to thank all my mods that were in here tonight. Miss Deb, URN, Miss Thang was in here, Dee was in here. Really appreciated that you guys come out and hung out and took care of the chat for me. Greatly appreciated, ladies. Ruckus, it was great to see you. Well, I can't see your bald head right now, but you're out at the pool. I know you're sitting on the patio.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to go ahead and end it for the night. I greatly appreciate everybody coming out. Once again, if you guys go to my YouTube channel, you will see the join button. And if you click that button, it gives the different stages of the memberships that you guys could join. And it also, in the comments section where the dollar bill sign is, you can go in there and there's memberships in there, super chats, super stickers. And you can buy me a coffee like Miss Perdue said, or you could just directly donate to my Cash App account.
Cash App's better. It's Frank's birthday. Cash App is better. YouTube doesn't get a cut of that.
Me and you were talking about that earlier today about my birthday, and everybody was asking me what I did. This thing asked me last night what I did for my birthday. And I said, I didn't do anything. I said, I'm not that old, but I just turned 54 yesterday. But I was raised that when you're born, you only have one birthday. and that is the day you were actually brought into this world, and anything after that is considered an anniversary.
That's right.
So
It's an anniversary.
I really don't celebrate the 4th of July like I used to, because it's not such a big deal. Even though it is America's birthday, I do sit and watch the fireworks shows on like CNBC or Fox Nation or whatever like that. But when it comes to going out, there's just too much stuff that goes on out in the world anymore to be hanging out watching fireworks somewhere. Too many shootings going on. I mean, I was laying in bed last night at 11 o'clock, and I heard somebody in the apartments that were unloading clips like you would believe. You know, so that's why I don't go out a whole lot, because this world is just going nuts. So it's better to protect myself and stay home and not get into mischief than to be out there and get shot at. So,
Agreed. All right, dude,
you
I'm
know
going
what
to
I mean?
dip out. You can give your final words. Thank you,
I
everybody, for joining
Yes,
in and asking me questions. I appreciate that. I'm a nobody. I've been retired since '08, so these are all just my opinions, not Frank's, not anybody else's. These are my opinions. So,
I appreciate it, Ruckus. We'll get together again.
all right, brother. Have a good
Talk to you
night.
another. All right, buddy. You too. Once again, I want to thank everybody in the chat for hanging out tonight. It's greatly appreciated. I love each and every one of you, especially my mods, Miss Deb, Miss Purdue, Dee. We had Miss Thang in here for a little while. And I want to give a big thanks to the 8 people that donated to the channel tonight. Jinx, Olivia 2, a new member, Whistleblower, Boston Christian, Rescue All Dogs, Pam Hurst, Gladys Kravitz, and Cecil Hotel. Thank you very much for the donations to the channel and super stickers. And there's another one by Indy Pam. Thank you, Indy Pam. Much appreciated. Yeah, it was quiet around here. I just sat home and watched the Cubs game last night. And I usually try to watch the Cubs game, and then I go watch a movie before I'm ready to go to bed. So, you know, I just don't celebrate my birthday like I did when I was a kid anymore. I mean, I'm getting to that age. Birthdays aren't a big deal to me, except for when it comes to my kids and my grandkids. And that's basically it, and family members. So, but I appreciate everybody that did wish me a happy birthday. Thank you very much. It meant a lot to me. And once again, I want to thank the mods for coming and hanging out and keeping up with the chat for me. Thank you, ladies. And until next time, guys, you know what time it is. It's peace out time. One love. Good night, guys.